divisions between the vamp and the heroine. You know, it is a traditional Madonna whore symbol. Also, it's interestingly put by some researchers that because of our history of colonization, the vamp was somebody with golden hair and blue eyes and very obviously cast in the Western mold. It was safe for men to lust after this colonial creature, but not after your own Indian woman. There was a very clear distinction between the vamp and the heroine.
But when the roles had to merge, the heroine literally had to have a split personality. Example Nargis in the 1967 film Raat Aur Din, playing a demure Indian woman by day and a westernized glam girl by night.
मेरे पति को कल रात ये पति कहा था जब होटल में एक गैर आदमी के साथ तुम डांस कर रही थी कह लगा रही थी उस वक्त ये पति पहचाना क्यों नहीं गया? क्या कह रहे हो? मैं डांस कर रही थी? हाँ। कल रात को? हाँ। कभी नहीं। कभी नहीं? नहीं, मैं तो तुम्हारे पास ही सो रही थी। फिर झूठ।
Clearly the two could not coexist within the same space. And if it wasn't the vamp, it was the courtesan with a heart of gold.
Courtesan, who is a very interesting mixture because she is somebody who has all the tehzeeb and the elegance. She loses her heart to the hero and provides great solace to the hero and very conveniently swallows the diamond and dies when it's time for her to disappear.
Almost always the courtesan was a helpless woman forced by circumstances to turn to a life of shame. Unlike the item girl of a vamp, the Tawayef was fully clad and her sexuality understated. Vaijayanti Mala in Devdas, Rekha in Mukaddar Ka Sikandar, or Meena Kumari in Pakiza. Hopelessly in love with the hero, the courtesan was all about tehzeeb, mausiki and nazakat. And it was as the silently suffering Umayyan that Rekha left the indelible imprint of the Tawayef in Hindi cinema. Like in the case of the courtesan, an understated sexuality defined the early Hindi film actress of the 70s. She could be bold and defiant, but was largely sexually repressed. Though Devika Rani went on to become the first Hindi film actress to kiss on screen in 1933, and Sharmila Tagore the first to slip into a bikini in 1967 in the film An Evening in Paris, the sex symbol tag for the heroine came much later with the very westernized Zeenat Aman.
The emergence of Zeenat Aman, according to me, is very important because Zeenat Aman provided the modern Indian woman who looked like a real person. She looked like a collegiate. She had straight hair. She didn't have those various bouffants and those hundreds of hairstyles that were necessary to play a Hindi film heroine.
So the lines soon began to blur. Along with rock and roll and flower power came Zeenat Aman and Parveen Babi, leading ladies who reinvented the Hindi film heroine, doing almost everything that the earlier fallen woman did.
Zeenat Aman, we had Parveen Babi. Both were very westernized. One of them made it to the cover of Time magazine. And I think they opened up the possibility of women who couldn't possibly speak Hindi too well, but were quite happy to display themselves, to flaunt themselves.
And this Madhuri Dixit dance number was almost like the final nail in the vamp's coffin. And things only got raunchier from here. From 90s, the economy opened up, as did the skies. A generation that grew up on MTV had no problems accepting Preeti Zinta as an unwed mother-to-be living in with her partner. Yes, it is time to say so there you have it, the new heroine of the new millennium taking a step further in destroying stereotypes, even experimenting with marital fidelity. Coming up next, the actress is the adulteress. That's what we've got for you after this short break. Don't go away, we'll be right back. Welcome back to this special show on the amazing avatars of the Hindi film heroine. Now, Karan Johar's last film, Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna, took the road less travelled. A married woman falls in love with another man despite having an arguably perfect husband. This film didn't exactly storm the box office back home. Was it because the masses found the idea of a married woman having an extramarital affair for no apparent reason unacceptable? Or was it too unconventional a theme for popular Hindi cinema? Truth is, there are no easy answers to this one. Films and adultery aren't new on the Hindi film playlist. Over the years, filmmakers have explored the theme of morality and marriage several times over, but mostly from the point of view of the unfaithful male.
मेरी जिंदगी में एक और लड़की आई थी।
ऐसी बातों में मजाक नहीं करते।
मैं मजाक नहीं कर रहा हूँ।
Back in the 60s, a married Meena Kumari pined for her philandering husband's attention.
हम तो आपसे यूं बकबक करने लगे जैसे पुरानी जान पहचान।
This story, which reflected the decadence of the Bengali zamindari milieu, Bhutnath's obsession with the married woman was purely platonic.
इतने दिनों से तुम रहते हो यहाँ, फिर भी घर की रीत नहीं समझ पाए। यहाँ दिन सोने के लिए है और रात जागने और जगाने के लिए।
मुझे बताओ ये किसकी है? किसने भरे तुम्हारे कान? किसने भटकाया तुम्हें? ऐसी कौन सी नई बात हो गई जो मेरे दिए आराम को छोड़कर तुम्हें कलियों के ठोकर खाने से डर नहीं लगता?
सोई थी, आंखें खुली।
Wahida Rahman was caught in a claustrophobic marriage in Vijay Anand's Guide.
कोई दूसरा आदमी तो नहीं?
हो भी सकता है।
Now, as opposed to R.K. Narayan's literary piece, the film had to show the workaholic husband drunk with a nautch girl, simply because the censor board could not digest the logic of a woman seeking love outside marriage just because her husband was indifferent towards her.
पहले तुम बताओ कि जहर खाने का क्या मतलब था? इस नए शहर में मुझे बदनाम करने का क्या मतलब था? वो कौन सी चीज है जो मेरा पैसा खरीद सकता है और मैंने तुम्हें नहीं दी?
People started writing to the information broadcasting minister, don't pass the movie because it's adultery, and adultery is taboo. It's not done in the Indian society. I had to go and convince the minister to pass the English version. The Hindi version also was still in the way, but then I had to show it personally to Mrs. Gandhi, to Mrs. Indira Gandhi, who was then the information broadcasting minister, and she saw it at the Rashtrapati Bhavan with her friends, and I was sitting along with her, and she saw the film, and I was watching her reaction. As the movie was over, I stood up and looked behind. She smiled and she said, "Come tomorrow, we'll clear it." But you speak so fast, Mr. Devanand. I said, "Did you like me?" No, it was good, she said.
जो कुछ तो मेरे साथ किया, अगर वही मैं तुम्हारे साथ करती और इसी तरह बात कराती, तो क्या तुम मुझे वापस ले लेते?
But in 1982, when Pooja walked out on Inder and her marriage, filmmaker Mahesh Bhatt was making a no-holds-barred statement on the gender-based hypocrisy of infidelity in his film Arth. It was almost as if Shabana was giving the forever sacrificing and ready to forgive Hindi film wife a new path to tread on.
What I like very much about Pooja is that she's human. She suffers indignity, humiliation, she begs, she gets into the recesses of herself to beg for one more chance. She's not this one big goddess-like creature who just emerges unscathed. But having been unscathed, she finally finds the courage to say, all right, I'll go on my own way. And men were really angry with me because they said that, what is this that you're teaching Indian women? You're asking them to walk out on their marriage. Is it easy that you walk out on the marriage and you think that's the solution? Of course that's not the solution. That was one of the solutions.
A premarital affair became the ground for an extramarital affair in Yash Chopra's Silsila. Rekha was perhaps the first popular heroine to play the philandering wife. But as long as she went back home and saved her marriage, everyone was happy.
I think everybody knew that it was a real love story, or thought they knew that it was a real love story. And I think we've always had a problem with seeing too much of ourselves on screen, seeing too much of real life on screen. I think the fact that Amitabh Bachchan is in love with Rekha when he's actually married to Jaya Bachchan, which is actually how reality was, I don't think people were very comfortable with that.
Aruna Raje, who really pushed the envelope with Rihai in 1988. For the first time, sex outside marriage for the woman did not have to be justified. It was a simple expression of her physical needs.
तुम क्या समझते हो? हमारी रातें लंबी नहीं? हैं, बहुत लंबी है. ऐसा जीना तो कुदरत के भी खिलाफ है. हमें भी चाहिए प्यार, एक सहारा. तुम क्या समझते हो? तो अकेली ही ऐसी है जो पराए मर्द के साथ सोई है.
But that again was in a space that's been tagged parallel cinema, catering to a niche audience. However, the unwritten law that the female lead would be virginal or chaste was slowly flickering out. Nation worked up. While a woman cheating on her husband with another man could still be justified, a woman cheating on her husband with another woman? Now that was a lot harder to digest. Deepa Mehta's Fire, released in 1996. Protests and calls for a ban on fire ensued. But the film in many ways redefined notions about marriage, morality and sexuality in Hindi cinema.
I think Fire is not only a love relationship between two women, but it's also about questioning arranged marriage system. It's about lack of choices that women have. You know, it's about a whole lot of other things, and therefore the context is important. But as we know that, you know, a relationship between two women can happen in any class.
Fire, Deepa Mehta's Fire, to me is an important film because she chose to place those two sisters-in-law in a middle-class Lajpat Nagar, Delhi household. She could have quite easily put them in Canada. Had she put them in Canada, then people would have said it's the Western influence, etc. But she said no, she's pulling the carpet from under your feet and saying, look at the reality the way it is. And then again handled very sensitively in a way that you really... And I think what is wonderful about the character that I play in the film is that finally, when she confronts her husband and she says, you say that desire is evil. I think without desire there's no point in living. Without desire I'd be dead. She doesn't say it as a raging feminist. She says it as a person who's played by the rules of the game and has lost it and has now decided to play on her own terms, quietly, with conviction.
Like Shabana says, Fire was an important film. It opened the doors for films that dared to take on the challenge of tempting actresses to explore the unconventional. There's more of that after this short break. Don't go away, we'll be right back. Welcome back to this special episode of Splendid 60 on the Hindi film Heroin. The new millennium brought with it the multiplex. It became easier for films with unconventional storylines to find an audience. And one of the most striking features of this new trend was the kind of roles that actresses got to experiment with. Post 2000, we saw heroines like Taboo, Dimple Kapadia and Dipti Naval step into unconventional roles in Astitva, Leela and Freaky Chakra. From becoming the center of a much younger man's attention